One of the sad things here is that I really actually didn't have to prepare very much in the way of remarks for this event, because the fact is we've been here many times before. And the fact is we've had to talk about this issue over and over and over again. And today we're again talking about the very American epidemic of gun violence. We're talking again about innocent lives senselessly lost in this brutally efficient way that results from easy access to guns. And we're wondering, again, how we got here, why this keeps happening, and what we've done about it since last time. Now, unfortunately, in this country, last time never ends up being really that long ago, right? Because remember, it was not even 2 weeks ago that we were mourning our nation's last large-scale mass shooting in Buffalo, New York. And today, of course, we're still processing our grief about the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, in which 19 fourth grade children and 2 teachers were brutally slaughtered while celebrating the last day of school in a place that they deserved to feel safe. It keeps happening, and sometimes it feels like it never stops. So Atlanta, of course, is no stranger to mass shootings ourselves. It's been barely a year, after all, since we were all mourning our own homegrown tragedy when on March 16th, 2021, another gunman who purchased his firearm that very same morning murdered 8 people in a rampage that rocked the nation's Asian American community to its core. And it's fair to ask, in the wake of that tragedy, how our state leadership has responded. What has our governor done to make Georgians safer from gun violence? And the short answer is nothing. Nothing. Despite Georgia Democrats dropping a number of common sense gun safety bills since 2021, including universal background checks, mandatory waiting periods, and safe storage laws, the GOP majority legislature and Governor Kemp have not lifted a finger to make our community safer from gun violence. Not only that, but this year, Governor Kemp actively pushed as his flagship piece of legislation a bill removing all restrictions from carrying loaded weapons in public. So the governor signed this bill into law despite opposition from 70% of Georgians, and literally on the same day as yet another mass shooting on a New York City subway train. Which leads me to ask, is the governor truly that out of sync with what the vast majority of people in Georgia want? Or is it that he just doesn't care? So this most recent slaughter of school children is unfortunately going to enter into our cultural lexicon and become shorthand for this type of mass shooting we continue to see, right? There was Columbine, Parkland, and now Uvalde. And so as legislators and as public leaders tasked with the goal of protecting our communities and standing in that gap between danger and ideology, I'd like our state Republicans, in particular Governor Kemp, who have so long stood in the way of common sense gun safety regulation, to take this moral inventory for themselves. Look at the pictures of those victims and then ask yourself, how would you feel if those were your kids, your spouse, your parent? What would you want done? What is in your power to do now? What is stopping you? Are you more scared than they were? And how will you explain this to your own kids, what you did in this moment? And if that answer is and continues to be nothing, then ask yourselves why you deserve to serve Georgia. I'd like now to introduce my colleague and my good friend, Representative Sam Park.
Thank you, Senator Elm. Brian Kemp has shown time and again that he'll prioritize his reelection over the safety of the people of Georgia. His extreme permitless carry law succeeded in gaining him Republican primary votes. It showed the 70% of Georgians that opposed this law that he's willing to gamble with their lives to gain those votes. The governor's decision to sign this dangerous bill into law comes as a new report from the CDC found that gun deaths have soared to historic heights in the United States. In Georgia, the rate of gun deaths has risen 41% from 2011 to 2020. And our state has the 17th highest rate of gun deaths in the nation. But instead of addressing this crisis, Brian Kemp is pushing us backwards on gun safety. Permitless carry bills have proven deadly consequences. Other states that have passed similar laws saw aggravated assaults with a gun spike by up to 65%, and states that weaken their gun permitting systems have seen a 15% increase in violent crime. Kemp's extreme permitless carry law is alarming and poses great risk to the safety of Georgia families and communities. Unfortunately, Georgia's AAPI community understands the dangers of gun violence and the urgent need to keep guns away from those who shouldn't be carrying deadly weapons. In just the past couple of weeks, we've seen a racially motivated mass shooting in Buffalo that left 10 people dead, and a tragic, heartbreaking mass shooting at an elementary school in Texas that left 19 little children and two teachers dead. These shootings and many more that happen every day in America are heartbreaking and avoidable. Just like the evil we saw days ago on display in Buffalo and Uvalde, we've witnessed that same evil right here in the Atlanta area. But instead of honoring those victims by doing everything possible to try and ensure nothing similar ever happens again, Brian Kemp and Georgia Republicans have decided to make it even easier for criminals to carry weapons of war in public. No election is worth more than our lives, and Georgians deserve better than someone who's proven he has no problem risking our safety to win an election. Brian Kemp has failed us and proven himself unfit for the office of governor. With that, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce Mr. Kanan.
Thank you, Representative Park. My name is Kannan Udayarajan, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Forsyth County Democrats and a State Committee member of the Democratic Party of Georgia. But I'm a parent too, so let me start off by giving some personal context on this topic. I grew up in India, where it is very difficult to obtain guns for private citizens. During my school days, we never had to worry about gun violence on a day-to-day basis. We didn't have active shooter trainings because gun violence was non-existent. I've been living here in the US for 15 years, and we have 2 elementary school children. My daughter graduated from 5th grade yesterday, and I was asking her what her biggest fears was going to middle school. She mentioned grades, homework, boys, and a random gunman shooting at children. We live in a dystopian situation where elementary school children are worrying about gun violence at an age they should be worrying about kid stuff. If you look at the numbers, there were 34 school shootings in 2021. We are only in the 5th month of this year, and there has already been 27 school shootings, including the horrific incident this week in Texas. And just a few weeks back, we had a woman shooting at a school bus in Gwinnett County. Now, I have lived here for 15 years, and I understand the historical context, the constitutional context, and the cultural context of guns in the US. I understand the values and the desire for gun ownership. We all respect that. We don't have a problem with the responsible gun ownership, but we do need to have checks and balances so that guns do not end up in the wrong hands. If you think about it, you need to be 21 years of age to buy cigarettes or alcohol, but you only need to be 18 years to buy an assault weapon. You need to get training, pass the written test, and a driving test to get a driving license. Why don't we have similar checks and balances for gun ownership? And this is why it is important to ask, why did Brian Kemp push so hard to pass permitless carry? And more importantly, what is he enabling through this policy when our children are scared on a daily basis? We are losing faith in the system. Children are losing faith in our ability to keep them safe. And we are all losing faith in our governor's ability to prioritize his citizen safety over politics. And this concern is shared not just by members of the AAPI community, but by a vast majority of Georgians. I want to close off by saying that our children, our communities, Georgia deserves a governor who will put their safety over politics. Thank you. And now you'll hear from Robert. Thank you.
Thank you, Conan. My name is Robert Peterson, and I'm the youngest son of young AU, who was murdered in March 2021 mass shooting targeting Asian American women in the Atlanta area. So gun violence is a personal issue for me. Gun violence is the reason my mother and 7 other victims are not here with us today to enjoy their lives and families. It's why people in my community no longer feel safe going to work, school, to the grocery store, riding MARTA, or going about our daily lives. The gunman who murdered my mother was able to obtain a gun the same day he decided to carry out his crime across 2 counties in Georgia. During that time, Brian Kemp said he cared about our community and he offered his thoughts and prayers, but no action. And as gun violence is rising across the country and in Georgia, it's an absolute necessity and paramount to our safety that we ensure there are checks and accountability when it comes to who is carrying firearms in our community. Brian Kemp's permitless carry law weakens Georgia's system of accountability and makes us all less safe. It removes the crucial step of needing to pass a background check before being allowed to carry a concealed gun in public. To put it simply, Kemp has weakened our gun safety laws and put communities at risk by allowing people to bypass that crucial check and carry deadly weapons out in public. Permitless carry is moving Georgia backwards on gun safety. We need a governor who will make sure we have accountability and that everyone who's acquiring or carrying guns undergoes a background check, a thorough background check. This isn't a controversial or partisan idea. A vast majority of gun owners, Democrats, Republicans, and independents support a full background check to carry a firearm. But Brian Kemp signed a permitless carry law anyway, making us all less safe. That's not what a governor should do. Our leaders should be working for us and prioritizing our safety. By pushing this dangerous permitless carry law, Brian Kemp is showing us that he doesn't care. Our safety isn't his top priority. His reelection campaign is. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Michael Webb.
Thank you, Robert. It's good to see you again. My name is Michael Webb. I was married to Xiaojie Tan, who was murdered last year in the mass shooting that targeted Asian American women in Atlanta. We have a daughter together. She was a mother, owned a home and 2 businesses, including Young's Asian Massage, where the first shooting occurred. Let me be clear. I'm a gun owner and I'm a hunter. Furthermore, I support our rights to own a firearm, but I also support common sense gun control and gun safety. The young man who executed my daughter's mother and 7 other innocent people did so within hours of purchasing a gun here in Georgia. The young man who killed 21 people in Texas did so after purchasing 2 assault rifles within days of his 18th birthday. As we all know, 19 of them were precious, innocent school children. Like Senator Al said, this is an American epidemic. After the shooting here, President Biden came to Atlanta. His visit was followed by a bus full of US senators and members of Congress, all meeting with the family's victim, all crying out for our leaders to do something about gun control. But our own governor never called or came to visit. Instead, as we were all mourning the first anniversary of the shootings, he was busy signing and celebrating Georgia's new permitless carry law, which 7 of 10 Georgians oppose. By pushing a law that risks lives, Brian Kemp has shown that he's not a leader and he's not up to the job. For him, his political career is more about Georgians, is more important than Georgians' safety. Now, I'm not a liberal or a Democrat. I'm just a father, grandfather, and victim of gun violence. In 1999, I received a call that my 18-year-old son committed suicide. They said I needed to come and identify his body. He killed himself with a loaded shotgun that was carelessly stored in plain sight by his grandparents. Make no mistake, suicide is gun violence, and it's the leading cause of gun-related deaths in America. Then a year ago, while sitting at a funeral home here in Georgia, I had to plead with my grieving daughter not to see her mother one last time. Imagine for a moment what those parents of those 19 little school children in Texas are going through right now. We cannot remain silent just because the vocal minority will attempt to drown out those of us who speak out about guns. Stop already with the moments of silence and the thoughts and prayers after each massacre. Governor Kemp, Georgia leaders, do something. Quit making this political. Stop trading lives for votes. Thank you.